Hi. A very warm welcome back to the last RP Book Club episode of 2021. This is our Campaigns and Companions festive special, and I'm really excited for you all to be able to listen to it. Sorry it's going out a little bit later in the day than normally planned. We pulled this forward to make sure you have a chance to hear it over the festive break. And so schedules were off. But here it is. I'm really excited for you to listen to it. It's a fun, silly end-of-term special with three of the creators of Campaigns and Companions, Andi Ewington, Rhianna Pratchett, and Alex de Campi. It includes a festive quiz with my favourite ridiculous quiz round ever. Is it a type of cheese, or is it a motorway services? So enjoy that. If you play along, drop us a tweet, let us know how you get on, and all the other off-the-wall discussions we managed to get into. And I'll be back at the end of the episode with your latest discount code and news of who my next guest is going to be as we kick off 2022. Joining me today for a very exciting, probably a little bit silly festive special, Andi Ewington, Rhianna Pratchett, and Alex de Campi, the writers and editor of Campaigns and Companions, the complete role-playing guide for pets. What I'm calling the must-have gift for the holidays this year. A hilarious and beautifully illustrated imagining of what it would be like if your pets could play D&D and were kind of jerks about it. And I think we're using kind of generously. Andi is a game director and has worked on numerous comic titles, including Freeway Fighter, Dark Souls 2, and 4545. Rhianna has worked on video game titles, including Mirror's Edge, comics for DC and Dark Horse, and many others, and across film and TV, and on multiple adaptations and original commissions, as well as a fantasy novel. Alex has created an extensive backlist of critically acclaimed graphic novels, including Bad Girls and Dracula Motherfucker, as well as any regular listeners will know, the book I simply will not stop yelling about, Heartbreak Incorporated. Welcome, everybody, to the RP Book Club.
Hey, Rosie.
Thank you.
Oh,
I'm so excited about this episode. I've been yelling about it to my colleagues. There is a theme emerging here, but I have been yelling about it to my colleagues for weeks on end.
I'm very glad to see the Campaigns and Companions mug behind you.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
I actually have two.
Oh, you do?
I do.
We don't have the one with the cat on, Andy. I think, the emails need to be sent. We don't have the cat one.
Oh, I don't have the cat one.
I know.
I did go out and print the gelatinous cube one for myself.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I think I can probably arrange for some cat ones. I'm pretty sure we still have some in the office.
Yay.
The fun thing about editing a book is like you don't feel the kind of embarrassment you do about like promoting it in terms of like, oh, I don't want to sound like I'm coming off as too like, too much about my own book. It's like, because it's really the genius is all Rhianna and Andy and Cal are amazing artists. But my daughter, even today, like, okay, the one thing about this book and the kind of the buried lead in this is not only is it great for anyone who's ever played an RPG, which is effectively everybody. It's amazing for like the 8 to 12 set. And my daughter is still talking about three of the jokes in it that she like just even this morning she's like, did you catch the reference in the story I wrote to the orb? And I'm like, yes, I did, and I'm really proud of it. And then she was like, one of my favorite jokes is the one about the cat not being able to get into the magic circle because it's a cat. And I'm like, she of course the guinea pig poop jokes are her.
Yay! Like very proud of guinea pig poop jokes, and I have actually owned guinea pigs. And they do poop a lot. So I feel like that I have legitimacy to make that joke.
It is both hilarious and accurate.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you brought your lived experience into guinea pig poop, right?
Yeah. I'm glad it came in useful one day.
And of course, Cal did such a visceral illustration of that as well, which is almost coming straight out at you, which is a little
really
bit disconcerting. Yes.
Yeah, you need some kind of 3D like or lenticular version.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's
yeah.
good.
They do a 3D version of it. It's just separating the red and blue.
It was very important to me that the guinea pig looked into it. Like, it was like, Cal, the guinea pig has got to look really happy, like, not that they're being abused, but like this is their moment. They've got to look delighted. So I was really
definitely. We had for listeners, we had art cards made to go along with some kind of special editions of the book, and actually they are currently available on the Rebellion Publishing web store when you buy direct from us, and one of them involves the guinea pig poop. So I would highly recommend going ahead and buying one of those, not just because, you know, that's what I have to say, but because it is genuinely both beautiful and kind of hilariously disgusting at the same time, and it's perfect. This leads me very nicely onto one of my questions. So we see lots of different pets, right? We see lots of different animals. Which animal or scene would you say is your favorite?
For me, it's the gelatinous cube and the cat's face as the dog just bounces up and down on it. I think the hilarity of that scene is been captured beautifully, and I just love gelatinous cubes. They're just squishy, and they're just brilliant. And I just love the way that you can just look through them, and the cat's expression of like, what the fuck? You know, it encapsulates it perfectly for me.
It probably is a guinea pig one for me, actually, because of like the amount of thought that went into it. Because that's the card that I've signed. Like, under the stream of poo is my signature on the card. So I like the spider one as well, because I've been very into I think it's called Ophelia the Monster on Facebook, and she breeds jumping spiders, and she's very good at sort of taking these very cute images of her jumping spiders, and it's sort of like, I'm not an anti-spider at all. I'm fairly pro-spider, but so I wanted to kind of get that in somewhere. And spiders are always very persecuted in RPGs, so I wanted to get like a spider that like is genuinely into it. So like next to being jerks, there's animals that are just really, really enthusiastic about their role as well, which I like. And the tortoise as well. Obviously, tortoises have been a lot of my life for a long time, and so the tortoise speeding tank joke is another favorite of mine.
The spider is actually my partner and I were talking about this earlier. The spider is his favorite. I'm a big fan of the chameleon dragon scene.
Yes.
I love that one.
I love how Cal did a lot of the art across both spreads. It wasn't just traditional. It was mixing it up between traditional like joke on the left page and then illustration on the right page with things that went across both pages. I mean, I'm still a fan of some of the really early stuff we did, like the cat knocking on the door, simply because we were also able to put the text in the doorway, which I thought was super clever. And then we had the kind of related illustration on the frontispiece with the orc looking through the door. I love we have a center spread illustration that doesn't actually have a joke. I mean, all the illustrations are brilliant. It's hard. It's like asking you to pick your favorite child or something like that. You just can't. But there was a center illustration that Cal didn't think he was going to have time to do, which is based on the famous painting Poker Dogs, which, if you are a hot piece of garbage like me, you know very well, possibly more than the museum works of art. And it's about a group of animals around a table playing a role-playing game, fantasy role-playing game, and there's so much detail in it, and it's so charming, and everyone's got a character, and even the paintings in the background are kind of in on the joke, and I adore it. I also adore, like, on the back cover there's a cat riding a dragon, and I am Anne McCaffrey trash from an early age. Animal riding a
me too.
Riding a dragon. I'm like, yes. And the cat just looks so pleased with itself. And I'm like, yes, go on, furry friend. Like, I would be pleased with myself too. Even the dragon looks pleased with itself. And
I was going to say, I have it here. The dragon is not upset about this turn of events.
Dragon's like, rock on. We're gonna kick some butt.
Fun fact, Anne McCaffrey sent my dad a dragon hand puppet when he became a knight so that he would have something to fight.
That's very cool.
Another joke about a kitten and a dragon and a cat. Like, there are several, like, all of the dragon jokes are good. There are about 4 of them.
I feel like the theme here is basically anything with dragons. We approve of, full stop.
I stand. Yep. Yep. I'm a simple person. Look, if it's got swords and dragons or spaceships in it, I'm there.
I've got to go back to my like sensible questions now. The book's been doing incredibly well. Well done, everybody. And to Calum, who's not here, couldn't be here, but also, of course, to him with the incredible illustrations that I don't stop looking at ever. It's been selected as a Waterstones Book of the Year, Best Humor Book of the Year. Did you have the feeling when you were sort of putting it together that this was something special that people were really going to love?
I always hoped it would be. I think I never go into it thinking this is going to be a surefire hit. You kind of, I'm quite humble in that respect. I just hope that a few people enjoy it and it does okay, and it has enough momentum to maybe let us do it again. That's always the sort of the plan, so to speak. So anything beyond that is an absolute bonus. Yeah. Deep down, you think to yourself, I could, if I can buy into this, and I can imagine my D&D friends and RPG friends would buy into this. You would hope that the rest of the role-playing community would get into this, and of course the pets, people who enjoy pets as well and keep pets. I felt that there was perhaps a bit of an X factor about it, but I never assumed. I just hoped secretly that it would do amazingly well, that everybody would come out of it sort of going, that was fun, let's do it again.
I mean, I think if you produced a lot of things, books, games, whatever, you have to you approach everyone with a attitude of optimism and hope, but not too much, because once it's out of your hands, it's out of your hands. Like there's nothing you can do. I think we all put so much care into this book, refining the jokes, working with Cal on the art. I'm just glad I thought that, this is such a fun, this is such a dark period in human history, and this is such a fun book. It was great to work on and release something that's like charming and hopeful and fun. And I was pleased with just it existing, and whatever small role I played in helping Rhi and Andi and Cal realize it. And the fact that it's gone on to make a lot more people happy is just great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the same with me. I think for me, it's when Cal started producing the art, and it sort of captured the jokes so beautifully, and it really felt like, okay, yeah, we're onto something, because Andi and I had been, exchanging jokes and things for a while, and Andi, I think you maybe just about started doing the Twitter jokes on Twitter as well, maybe at the early stages of when we were working on it. But yeah, it was. It all started coming together. I mean, we're used to looking at words on the page, and you just put them down, and you hope if they make you laugh, then you hope they'll make someone else laugh. Yeah, it's just hope. It's just put together with kind of hope. And it was when it all started to come together with Alex's editing and with Cal's illustrations, and just like the tiny page details and things like that, it kind of really sort of came together. I thought, okay, yeah, this is something special. It's gonna be a nice Christmas present, a nice kind of stocking filler, and it makes us laugh. And as Alex said, that we need more laughter in the world at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. When was it that you were kind of creating it? Was it really kind of during that more intense? I say more intense, but anyway, here we go again. During that kind of more intense 2020 kind of period of the pandemic. Was that when you were kind of bringing it together?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, Alex, go. You go.
I remember viscerally, because it was like July through October of 2020, and making it worse is I had everything is feast or famine in the creative arts. You either have nothing or you have everything. I remember at that time I had my book with Duncan Jones and another anthology I was working on that we were getting out at the same time. And I was like so grumpy and so like, I don't know if I can get through all of this. And Rhi and Andy like, come on, what's up? Like, can you just chill? And I'm like, no, I can't. But we got it together mostly due to them. And yeah, so it was during not only a particularly stressful time in the world, it was a uniquely stressful time in my particular schedule, and like nothing could be shifted because you're dealing with print deadlines and you're dealing with the still ongoing supply chain issues in publishing, like lack of paper, the fact that the shipping ports keep getting closed down, that like, you know, everything is taking longer and longer and longer, and deliveries take a while, and you just have to, you know, the already long publishing cycle just kind of got stretched out to the point where, you know, if you were trying to release a book last autumn, it was just like, I guess it might show up on time. Even the spring, it's been like, you know, we had books that, you know, got delayed a month or two for their US release because of just, you know, someone's warehouse got shut down, or there was some snow in Tennessee, or like the ports were still closed. So it's been a wild time to make things in so many different ways.
Certainly challenging. I mean, I remember we were perhaps talking around about December leading up to February time, just trying to sort of get everybody on the same page, you know, getting all schedules sort of aligned. And then we were sort of into it really from July, as Alex said. So yeah, I think the tweets were starting to form around about October. I was just putting the odd tweet together. And then there was a sort of a thread of tweets around probably November time. And then, you know, quickly, Alex and Rhi were sort of introduced to it, and it really moved from there, really, quite quickly.
And those tweets are still going, and people should definitely check them out. Yeah, because I love them, as you know.
I get told off for tweeting too much. So, but my wife tells me off. You're spending too much time on Twitter, and I'm going. But look, it's got us the book. This little baby. This is what's come from it. It's ours. But no, she appreciates that my time sometimes has to be pushed towards the jokes. And I just need to balance it sometimes, and remember that I've got a family, and that the jokes need to stay with us sometimes, and not shared with the world.
Well, we all have different ways of working through our process. I mean, I tend, you know, I tend to curl up in a corner and snarl at people and clutch my little moleskin and start stories in there. But also, you know, sometimes, especially with humor stuff, it's important to have the validation of the audience to be like, is this just funny for me, or is this funny for everyone? And, you know, developing a thriller, you can't really tweet it because you'll spoil the twists. Like if I tweeted Heartbreak Incorporated, it would be much less fun to read. But with humor, like I think it really whets people's appetite, and the jokes are so perfect for a Twitter feed. I do want to say, for anyone out there going, oh, this, you know, like these people getting books off Twitter, Andy had a whole ass book proposal. Like he had the cover illustration from Cal, he had example jokes, he had like, I mean, it was all this whole like beautifully written up document. So when we found out that Rebellion was interested, ironically through another friend in publishing, Andy was able to present, you know, a document that kind of said, yes, I am a professional at this, and this is what the book will look like. So when you take it to, you know, your approvals board, your editorial board, it's not just like, here's some tweets, it's here's how I see this in printed form, and here's how it will work in printed form. So, you know, it's fine they could obviously look at Twitter and be like, oh, well, you know, this has an audience, people are reacting well to it, so there's probably less risk. But also you could tell from the book proposal, you know. So, you know, you do ultimately have to put in the work to reassure publishers that you can make a professional book and meet your deadlines and stuff like that. So it's not just like we tweeted stuff and Andy tweeted stuff and we got a book deal.
And I do like putting the presenter together.
It was really nice.
It was, yeah. I was literally just looking through our files, and it's really nice.
See, he did a good job. So, all of you out there, yes, you do have to write a synopsis. I'm sorry, they suck. You get better at it. Please do it. So, yes.
And Andy's actually so good at graphic art as well. He's done loads of alternative movie posters that are so good. And I've got a couple of them he sent me that I printed out and framed. Like, they are better than the actual original movie posters. So yeah, I think all his skills have been leading towards that. And I had a book out during the pandemic, which was a fighting fantasy book, which came out in October of 2020. It's hard, like I don't know about you guys, but I feel like time during the pandemic is so weird. Like, I can't really pinpoint when anything happened exactly, or what happened before, or what was happening during. But yeah, things changed in terms of I couldn't sign the books. I had to sign loads of book plates instead, which we also did with the cards as well. And the landscape changed, but having that humor to help keep us buoyed up was so important. And I found myself taking on stranger projects during the pandemic, more unusual projects during the pandemic, because the TV and film industries slowed to a halt, really. And the game industries were a little bit more buoyant, because you tend to work from home as a writer anyway. And I think we just adapted a bit more. So I ended up, but I did like Stranger Games. So I did a story for Surgeon Simulator 2, which is about operating on someone, and not necessarily a game that really lends itself to story. And so that was a fun one to do. The book was a fun one to do. I wrote a tabletop RPG. So I ended up doing many more unusual things during the pandemic, of which Campaigns and Companions was one. But it was just a joy. And I've known Andy for a long time, and it was really nice to be able to bounce jokes back and forth with him.
And what is also awesome is I've wanted to work with Alex for a long time. I've wanted to work with Rhi for a long time, and I've always wanted to get Cal on a really cool project as well. So to have this little dream team of really creative people on a project was just really awesome. So yeah, thank you for agreeing, everybody.
Cal is hard to get on the schedule. I mean, you would be unsurprised to find out that he does a lot of concept design for blockbuster films. He was on whatever the last Star Wars film was. I'm really sorry, I've lost track. I've lost track with all the franchises.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, and he was on the one. I think he was on Rogue One as well. But I remember I think he was leaving a Star Wars, and then he was scheduled to start on a Batman, or was he leaving a Batman and going on to something else? But that, like, we had a month, and he's like, I have to get this done in a month, and that's why he was almost not able to do the Poker Dogs spread, because but it turned out he did. So he is, it's getting Cal on a project. Much as he loved it and we enjoyed working with him, he's. I think Andy and I both have these occasional fantasies of like, maybe we could do a comic with Cal.
Never going to happen. He's just too busy.
Follow him on Twitter, because he posts little illustrations all the time that are incredibly charming.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. He did one that we've been using to promote the book for Christmas. And Andy sent it over to me, and it was just every time I see anything new from Cal, I just like stop for a minute, and it's just fantastic.
Use Callum A. Watt at the Twitters. Again, now this is turning into a How Creatives Survive the Pandemic podcast.
I'm not mad at that.
I think Rhi is spot on in that those of us whose careers have taken more of a magpie path had a slightly easier time during the pandemic, because when whatever primary creative track we were on just like plowed into a wall for a little while, and they all did, in their own special ways, we could kind of pivot to something else. Like I was working on my third novel, which I then stopped because my daughter is doing middle school admissions in Manhattan, which is insane. But we all, like, you could move between, we were all moving between like comics and games and film and TV, and and this, and potentially novel writing and stuff like that. Just anything to kind of maintain some internal feeling of forward momentum, even if that momentum was extremely slow. A little, on the principle of a little bit of something's better than nothing.
Yeah, completely. And that's been something that, kind of speaking to a lot of people for this podcast and in general, that I think people have agreed that that's been one of the benefits of being kind of having a less typical career through the garbage fire that has been the world in the past couple of years. That things have kept going to an extent, and that's been
slowly. I think a lot of us have had trouble adjusting to the term is allostatic load, just the general load of stress that's in the atmosphere because of the pandemic, because of both US and UK politics, everything. That we all found that the things that we could normally accomplish at a particular rate were not in fact happening at all, or we could barely eke out like a tenth of that rate. And part of, I think, the learning curve of the pandemic for many of us was learning to forgive ourselves for not being as productive or productive at all for large swaths of it. And it ain't you, it's the allostatic load. Like, it really is the fact that, a large chunk of our brains are having to deal with, terrifying external events. And so of course we can't necessarily sit down and, whip out 1,000 words a day, every day, with a smile on our face.
I mean, to be totally honest, I can't do that in regular time, so... Definitely echo what you've said about having this, this has been a piece of lightness that I think I've really enjoyed. And I know lots of people have really enjoyed when they've been picking it up. I know I've also been doing more sort of gaming, both online and offline. And I wanted to ask about kind of your background with RPGs and or D&D. Is that something that you've all been doing for a long time? Was it kind of part of growing up, or is it something that's been more new?
I mean, I was brought up on sort of fighting fantasy books. That's where I started, really, reading Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson books from an early age. That led straight into D&D for me, and all of the sort of accompanying RPG titles, RuneQuest, Marvel. I'd pick up all of them, really. And then that sort of, you had a little bit of a hiatus. I sort of ended on MERP, so Middle Earth role playing was my big thing. So I had my best friend is sort of a bit of a lore master when it comes to MERP, and knows everything. You ask him what herb grows on the banks of a certain river, he'll just go, right, it's this. And he's pretty good on his lore. So he was a brilliant DM. So very engaging, and I'd just stay over his house for the whole weekend playing Middle Earth. So and then at that point, sort of, I started to meet girls, and you go out socializing and realizing there's a world outside of playing role-playing games that's actually the real world. And then I sort of came back to it through really computer games, and playing Baldur's Gate and a lot of the Fallout series, and recently Skyrim. So yeah, I tend to love anything that's world building, anything that you can sort of go, right, okay, so my mission is to go from A to B. Okay, I'm going to Z, because that seems much more fun than going to B. So yeah, a real sort of and now obviously with children, I get to do that all again, which is fantastic. We generally have a big ping pong table which we use as a gaming board. So the ping pong table, net comes down, and we'll just put out. We were playing Hero Quest last weekend, and introducing that to the kids. My daughter, not so much. I mean, she's only 10, so her attention span for lots and complex rules and everything is generally a lot shorter than my son, who will sit there and literally go through going, "What's this stat do?" and let's do another adventure, and he'll actually fatigue me. But yeah, that's. I'm hoping that with a bit of time, a bit of encouragement, the entire family, apart from my wife, will embrace board games and fantasy.
With me, me and my best friend growing up in school, Ellen Brundage, who I'm still in touch with, and like she and I were both absolute fantasy nuts. Like I said, anything with a sword or a dragon on it, I've read it. Like all of the classics of 1970, like from Michael Moorcock through Anne McCaffrey, Piers Anthony, all of that, read it. And she and I would play D&D together. There's no one else at our school who was into D&D, so we just play these like janky 2-person games that we made up and create characters and stuff like that. And like, you're shocked that we became writers. And then like I fell away from it after I went to college, and then still was interested in fantasy and stuff like that, but didn't actually play games for a long time. And then but I knew all the rules, but they were all like extremely old. Like when I picture a Dungeons and Dragons book in my mind, it's an extremely old one. It's like the classic Monster Manual and stuff like that, which is still such a good book. Subscribed to Dragon for years. I got back into it mostly through my daughter, not doing actual RPGs, but she got 100 on a math test on like February 20th, 2020. And I'm like, I promised you, if you got 100 on this math test, I would buy you a Nintendo Switch. Because I also had a GameStop $100 card, gift card. So I bought her this Nintendo Switch right before they all sold out because of the pandemic. And I've been with her on this gaming journey as she was 10 then. Actually, no, she was 9 then. She's 11 now, as she's gotten better and better with games and stuff like that. So I've been with her, like going through Breath of the Wild. Her new favorite game is a game called Spiritfarer. She's, Dragon Quest Builders, like everything which is also heavily influenced by RPGs. And that's been a real delight. I mean, she came into Campaigns and Companions not really knowing what D&D was, because I didn't really explain it to her. I was just like, here's funny pets doing things. She's like, this is great. So like somehow we managed to transcend the I know what fantasy role-playing games are crowd with this book. It's got to appeal beyond that, because my child is a perfect test case. I think it'll be fun to see where she goes with gaming. I mean, I love it, because games are such I truly believe that video games are an amazing art form. And I love the storytelling. I love the animation. I just love everything about them. I don't play them because I'm kind of obsessive, and I also have to finish novels, but like, I love to watch vicariously as she plays them.
Yeah, my experience with D&D is fairly light. Like Alex, I played the nearest thing to D&D with the little girl that lived next door to me. So we used to play lots of computer adventure games together that were probably a little bit old for us. Like we used to play the Leisure Suit Larry games when we were like 8 and 11, and they were sort of gatekeepered as being 18 games. I'm not really sure why. They were just made up of a bunch of pixels, but they had these like, are you 18 questions? That's how they judged it, and they were all about the American political process. So we would end up having to go look things up in books to get into a computer game. And we played King's Quest and Space Quest, the Dare the Tentacle, all those kind of games. We also played one called Sorcerer's Cave, which is a very D&D-like game where you're laying down cards. You need quite a big floor space to do it. You're laying down cards. You get kind of passageways. Every time you come to a cave, you have cards that you turn over, and you have a number of points that you can allocate to quest members and something like that, and then you have to fight what's ever on the cards. And we used to make up card monsters based on kids that we didn't like, And so yeah, we got a lot of enjoyment out of that. We lived in a very small village. Like we didn't even have a one horse to be a one horse town. It was literally a road and a sneeze of houses. And so yeah, we really had to make our own entertainment. So Sorcerer's Cave is probably where I first started off, and then it was more computer game role-playing stuff. So I don't know whether, I always say Baldur's Gate, not Baldur's Gate, which I like because it sounds more dwarven, but Baldur's Gate I used to play both of them, and Planescape Torment as well. And I went into obviously being a game reviewer to start with, so I got to meet a lot of, you know, like BioWare and other studios that are producing these games. But I never did I've never had a proper, like, with a DM D&D experience. But I spent a long time between the ages of 8 and 16 going to sci-fi and fantasy conventions all around the world. So I absorbed a lot about it. So I just sort of knew there was a sort of instinct about it. But yeah, I still have never played a proper D&D with a DM. So that's still to come.
Are you planning to?
I've had offers. There are a lot more DMs and D&D parties about, and people talk about it a lot more. I think Stranger Things has kind of helped push it into the mainstream a little more. So it will happen. It will definitely happen sooner or later. But now I feel like anxious about it because I'm a writer, and I think people are going to have expectations, and yeah, so I'm a little nervous about it. But yeah, I've had a few offers, so I'll definitely take someone up at some point.
I feel like it's been something I've seen kind of come more into the mainstream. I wonder if a little bit, it was probably already underway, but a little bit, I think I've noticed it more through the pandemic, that I think people kind of just let go of some of those preconceptions of what was cool or what was anything like that, and just went with whatever made them feel better, whatever was comforting. Like I've seen, a few kind of YouTubers that I like that aren't kind of in the games world, suddenly start talking about gaming more, and suddenly start talking about playing D&D with their friends over Zoom or things like that. So it's been really interesting to see. I feel like a lot of the things that I did when I was growing up that really weren't cool have somehow now become cool. And I don't know totally how comfortable that is.
They were always cool. We were ahead. We were the vanguard. We knew it was cool.
I like that. We're going to go with that. We did kind of on this have a listener email in to ask for anyone looking to get started in RPGs, what would you advise on like a good starting point?
I would start with something like Hero Quest is a good example, or Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, which is a very simplified version of Gloomhaven, which is a great board game role-playing experience with some really good narrative in it, that allows you to sort of play the game without necessarily having to, take on the persona of the character, and then that can become your gateway into D&D a little bit later. Trying some of the board games, because they're cheaper, they're a little bit, and Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion can be a single player experience, so you don't need other people. You can just let the rules DM for you, and you're pretty much exploring, and the story unfolds, and it all happens on a board, and there's lots of little surprises that little boxes that you open up that are only supposed to be opened at certain times. It becomes a little bit of a legacy game. So for me, I would suggest having a look at that, reading some cool books, Crystal Caves, or anything that fighting fantasy orientated. Those again are good single player sort of experiences, and then take the step towards get a basic set of Dungeons and Dragons, and try to introduce perhaps some of your friends who are that are perhaps playing the board games with you at that point to try the Dungeons and Dragons.
A lot of gaming groups also, if you ask around your friends, you'll probably know somebody who's like, oh yeah, actually, I have an RPG group. I never talk about it, but you have two kinds of friends: the ones who talk about their RPG group all the time, and the ones who just go and do it. Okay, and they're both great. Like, they're both valid. But if you ask around, you probably have someone, a close friend you trust who plays RPGs. And if you say to them, hey, I've never done this before, I'd like to try it out. Most RPG groups are really, really welcoming. And if you preface it by like, I have no idea, I'm going to need my hand held through this, they'll either say, maybe not this one because this is a group that's been around for a really long time and like that wouldn't work for this. Or they'll say, absolutely, we're starting a new game in 2 weeks. Why don't you come on board? We'll hold your hand. I'll talk to the DM, or I am the DM, and like, we'll maybe scale it down a little bit for you. It's really like gaming is really a social experience, a collaborative social experience of fantasy. And like all collaborations, like usually it is very giving and very understanding and based around making sure that everybody has fun. Will your character die occasionally? Yeah, probably. But, I have a lot of friends who have joined RPG groups, or created ones or gotten back to it over the pandemic, because it was also something that, people could do over Zoom during the worst of it. And, as sometimes, especially over Zoom, and especially now that we're all mildly agoraphobic because we haven't gone outside in like a year and a half, or like been in large crowds, sometimes the rules and structure around something like a gaming night is much easier to cope with than going out and meeting a bunch of new people, like without a topic to frame it in. So, you're meeting lots of new folks, but also, the discussion is being led for you. You know what you're doing. You've got an objective. It's not like, oh, well, how do I make small talk? Oh, what if they don't like me? It's fine. It's much lower stress because you're given something to focus on. So I would highly encourage anyone who, especially if you're feeling a little lonely and wish you had more social interaction, and that may not be possible because of like immune compromisation in your family, distance, schedule, whatever, to maybe reach out to some pals and say, hey, like, do we want to all do this together and like find our way through? Because there's no way to do it wrong. Do it how you want to do it. That's the whole point. There's no like D&D cop who's going to descend from the heavens and being like, no, you're playing the game wrong. That's the way you want to play the game that way. Or, join a group, but let them know that, you're going to need to just have lots of support.
A fluffy dog asleep on the bed behind you? I've only just noticed because your arm was obscuring, and then I saw a little nose wiggle.
Is that Sarge?
That's Sarge. This is
Sarge. The famous Sarge.
This is Sarge's emotional support dinosaur.
I think this is Sarge's second appearance on the podcast.
Well, this is my sort of permanent Zoom setup here. It's my lettering computer, and is where I did a lot of the design work and the layout work for Campaigns and Companions, because the layout and design was like a 50-50 between me and Rebellion, because Rebellion have an amazing team, but also it was like everybody was stretched, and so I started. But Sarge, Sarge likes to be close to me in the way that most staffies do, and he will always sit on the bed behind me. We haven't had him roll around and start grunting. Usually he rolls around on his back and starts making dinosaur noises, or like licking his butt, or any of the other charming things that dogs do when you're trying to be serious. Usually waits to like the really high stress, like meetings before giving it a good dinosaur session behind me. I guess
he's he's having a little chew.
Yeah, that's he's giving some love to the familiar.
Yeah. He's already extracted its squeaker. They all if it squeaks, like he'll still keep the toy, and he just makes this little surgical hole, which you wouldn't expect from a large blunt dog like him, and just pulls the squeaker out and then kind of deposits it, and then he kind of worries at the hole and gradually pulls little more bits of cotton out over the course of about a month, and you have to buy him a new one. These are the indestructible dog toys, by the way.
Oh yeah, there's no such thing.
Bit of a precision strike on the fluffy toy.
Well, now that we're onto your pets, the dedications in the front. are to your pets, which inspired us at Rebellion to run a character sheet competition where people created a character sheet for their own pets or a soft toy if they didn't have any. If you were creating a character sheet for your pets or a pet you have of your choosing, what would their name, class, and special ability be?
Oh gosh.
Oh,
I'll let somebody go first because I don't have a pet anymore. So
Okay,
Do you have a soft toy?
Sarge would be a like he would definitely be some sort of paladin. He would be lawful good because honestly he is a little bit of a cop. And I guess his special ability would be, I mean, definitely the gas attack. And then we have a cat who's got to be some sort of thief. And her special ability is I think she the energy she gets from the moon, because she has lots more energy at night because I'll be sort of half awake at 2 a.m. and hearing the cat like tearing up and down the hallways for absolutely zero reason. But yes, Ruffles the cat, she's the tiny 7-pound thief. If she can steal it, she will steal it. Also, she adores knocking things off tables in the way that cats do.
I've just adopted a 10-year-old Russian blue. I'm just trying to find a photograph because she's upstairs being a little goblin in the corner of the bedroom. She lives on a toadstool and she rules from the toadstool. I have 2 tabby males, and one of them kind of hates her and the other one is in love with her. And like it's like it follows, so everywhere she goes, like he's just constantly following her, and he just wants to he desperately wants to sniff her. He's always about like the sniffing, and he just wants to sniff every creature. He doesn't want to fight them, and he's not aggressive to her at all. He just desperately wants to sniff her. And so yeah, everywhere she goes, you can always see him sort of watching, and he does the kind of kissy face eyes that cats do. So she is called Tally. I'm just trying to find a photograph with her, and she is a definite rogue, and she would have a special angry chittering ability, and she also a kind of jump from the shadows ability, because she knows that Sam, who is the male, when she goes back in the room, he will follow her, and she waits behind the door and jumps out at him, and he falls for it every single time. And yeah, she is great, but she is sort of like we're about a month in. And she was a sort of I adopted some friends who'd had a baby, and they that she wasn't doing too well with the baby, and she's quite sensitive to noise, sensitive to babies and bagpipes. So babies playing bagpipes is an absolute no-go for Tally. But she's a delightful little creature. I think cats are really natural rogues. I think Sam could be some kind of bard because he's so cheerful, and he's not sort of swayed by any angry cats. He just looks slightly hurt and walks away, but he doesn't ruffle his tail, he doesn't hiss back. Like you can just deposit him amongst cats and he will just like ignore them and trot around on his own. And like I'm so proud of him. I get real like proud mother vibes when I see him interacting with other cats, and he's just like so casual and cool. So yeah, he would definitely be some kind of bard with a high charisma, I think, for Sam.
I think if I had an animal, the kids are desperate to have a dog, and we would love to have a dog, but my wife's a childminder, so it makes sort of keeping pets quite difficult when you've got lots of babies in the house that are, very small and everything. So
very grabby of things like tails and ears, and don't really understand that you can't fall on the dog when it's asleep. Because
exactly, if I could, I'd have probably a boxer, and that boxer would probably be a barbarian, chaotic good or chaotic neutral, perhaps a bit better. And in terms of name, I don't know, something suitably chaotic and destructive. Thrud. Barry the
barbarian.
Yeah, exactly.
This is Tally. That is Rose.
Oh.
Yeah, and she has her own little cat friend toy, which is Chloe from The Secret Life of Pets. But yeah, I mean, I like big. In my family, Pratchetts have cats like other people have bathrooms. Like they're just part of the house. We have to have cats, we have to have them. But yeah, once you get like more than one, the interactions between the cats and how they, you know, gang up on each other, how they like hang out together, like, you know, just the little interactions they have are hilarious. I always recommend people get more than one cat because you get beautiful interactions between them.
And then they have a friend,
yeah,
possibly, or a frenemy if you're a cat.
Yeah. I think like anger also helps cats as well. Like I think like Tally's general anger at now living with two kind of bouncy boy cats is that like keeps her on her toes all the time, and she's always sort of telling them off. But yeah, I love having, you know, my own little clouder of cats.
The one thing I have to say also is that I volunteered for a dog rescue for like 10 years in New York that's special needs dogs. And so most of the dogs that I've ended up adopting are seniors or disabled, or sometimes both. And Tango, who's one of the dogs that I dedicated campaigns and companions to, was a deafblind staffy. And she was an amazing dog. You know, I wish people, none of us are perfect, and yet we want perfect pets. We want like pedigreed, perfect puppy, young, you know. May I suggest the gently careworn disabled animal? They are, you know, as someone who's owned both deaf and blind, and well, also deaf-blind dogs, the amount of work you need to do to accommodate a disabled pet in your home for most disabilities, obviously if they're like hind and paralyzed is a little bit more, but for most disabilities is almost nothing. Like I had to keep Tango on a leash. That was the only difference for her. And then, you know, if it's a deaf animal, rather than they can startle because obviously they can't hear you coming up unless you're quite heavy and your floorboards vibrate. So you blow on them to wake them up. You just go, you know. And you work a lot with hand signals as you would, you know, communicating with any creature who can't hear. Not for Tango, obviously, because she couldn't see them either. She was extremely low vision, but blind. And so, you know, she was such a wonderful dog to have, and everybody who met her loved her, and she brought so much light into the world. But a lot of people would have passed her by because she was old and couldn't see and couldn't really hear. And you know, the same thing with, you know, with FIV or FELV cats or blind cats, or, you know, or even amputee animals. They get along on three legs really, really well. You know, so please consider the awesome, less adoptable pets when you're adopting, because they really are, they will change your life.
Yeah, and always rescue if you can. Like the kitties behind me, that is Pinky and Perky, who I gave my dedication to. They were rescue kitties. Cosmos and Sam are both rescue kitties. I friends with a lady that rescues kittens specifically, very, very young ones from the street. And Sam was two weeks premature. Cosmos had been abandoned at 2 days. And she works very closely with kittens, and you know, she saved so many lives because of that. You know, I didn't think I would ever get a Russian blue because you don't tend to find them, but because a friend had one, it was a good. I love tabbies first, but second are greys. So yeah, getting one that was a real treat. But pedigrees tend to be a little bit more highly strung, I found, than you know, your bog standard moggy cat. So my mum has a few pedigree cats, and they're all various degrees of mad, in like charming, very cat ways. But yeah, I love me a good tabby, good solid tabby.
At Rebellion, we have a disproportionate number of people who have black cats. I don't know why this has happened. I have one who might come, but might not. He's going to ignore me. I don't have treats, so he's ignoring me. Yeah, when I started, we kind of have a tradition where we'll all like send cat photos around because so many of us have them. And it turned out that like 4 out of 5 cats were black cats. So I don't know if that's something about Rebellion or the people that end up joining. But we were talking about it not long ago, and that black cats are still the least adopted because people think they're unlucky or there's superstitions around them.
There's also thoughts that people won't get them because they're not as easy to photograph, and so they want a cat they could put on Instagram and things like that. Like that's the sort of one of the modern theories about black cats.
I love my little void. He's wonderful.
It's very important to always have treats on you. So I've got like these on my desk.
Oh yeah.
In case of the passing cat. And Tally is like a different cat in the presence of Dreamies. Like I'm using these a lot to try and train the cats to like be chilled with each other. And I have a whistle in case they're not. So which makes me like a sort of demented gym teacher. But I kind of like it because as a writer, you don't really get to blow a whistle very much. But like if they start really kicking off and fighting, then as long as I could find the whistle, which I lose most of the time anyway, and it just really shocks them and they stop fighting with each other. So yeah, it's whistle and Dreamies is where I am at the moment.
You need some cards.
In America, and they are like crack for cats. I'm convinced they're just horrible junk food. But my cat who is above everything is not above Dreamy / Temptations, and I think she's slightly annoyed about that, but will still come running for them.
Yeah.
I think Rhi, you need some referee type cards, like when the cats kick off, you got to bring out like a little red or a little yellow. Say right, that's a warning. Or if it's really bad, say right, that's it, you're off, out, and then show them a red. I think that would be.
It's difficult to know who the aggressors are when you have sort of three cats, and like the trouble is that Cosmos is such a big custard, and Sam is so aggressive in the way he wants to sniff people. So he comes right up and tries to sniff Cos's neck, and then Cos goes backwards, falls over, and starts squealing. And he is a massive cat, so it looks like he's going on for 7 kilos. So it looks absolutely ridiculous that he gets sort of so scared by Sam just trying to sniff him. But yeah.
So you need some sort of VAR system to check who was the culprit then? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, sometimes you learn the cat's voices as well, like the sort of sounds that they make when they're either playing or kind of in distress and stuff. But yeah, it's certainly been interesting. It gets more interesting with 3, that like the level of I think with every new cat you add to the clouder, you get like the different dynamics, and cat dynamics are swapping all the time. So you could have like the leader of a clouder won't necessarily always stay the leader, and the ones below it, and it'll be a shifting dynamic, which is kind of really interesting. And I think at one point my parrots had 8 cats, and it was like they were very defined roles. Who was in charge? Who was really in charge and did a lot of the running about and jumping in between arguments and things like that. And the guest liaison cat who greets visitors to the house and things. And it's very interesting seeing all those roles like develop like a D&D group, bringing it back to the subject.
I was going to say that sounds perfect for a new gag, and a new gag has already started to form in my mind that I shall save for later.
At our highest, because I grew up in a kind of a rural farmhouse, and again, I guess in America I always think of it as a one-horse town. In the UK, it's sort of like a one-pub town. Or did you not even have a pub in your town, Rhi, growing up?
Oh, we had a pub, yeah.
Okay. For a moment there, I thought you were really like disengaged.
No, we had a pub. That was it. I think if you have like more than 4 houses, you have to have a pub, like legally, like every there's got to be one. So yeah, that was a sort of central point in the sneeze of houses was the pub.
By the way, if you've never read Taiyo Matsumoto's Cats of the Louvre, it's a graphic novel, and you'd really love it. It's about cats that live in the attic of the Louvre, and it's a really incredibly charming, slightly fantasy tinged story. So
cool, good recommendation.
Yeah, check that out.
Okay, so a listener got in touch and wanted to know if there were any kind of deleted scenes or anything that didn't make it into the book, or anything you've found that's really come to you kind of since it went off to print.
I think there was one joke that for page count reasons we couldn't put in, because obviously the book has to be in a round number. It has to be a multiple of 8 in terms of pages. And when Rebellion editor David and I and Rhi and Andi worked out like how many frontispieces we'd need and like how many pages at the end for bios. And we were like one spread over, so we kind of had this. It was really hard. I think I actually made David pick which joke to cut, because I'm like, again, like my children. But we all kind of went, yes, this one will go next time.
Yeah, I had one which the cat kind of refuses to do anything in the story, in the dialogue, and the DM gets bored and sort of walks off. And then in the middle of the night, the cat comes back and then makes the decision and wakes the DM up. Though it was cut purely because it kind of broke out of the mold that we kind of set. I mean, I do want it to go back in at some point, and I will fight for it because I think it's very funny. But that was a favourite of mine that just didn't make it this time round. But I think that. Hopefully in a book 2 or a book 3 or a book 4 or a book 5, it will make an appearance.
Yeah, I think that was it. That was like, we had to pick one to go, simply because we would either have to add 6 more pages on, increase the cost of the book, yada yada, or just cut one joke. And we were also conscious that Cal was like, wow, this is a lot, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do all of it. So we cut that one, and I think it was because it was the only one that kind of broke the fourth wall and acknowledged that the animals were in a game. Before that, everything was kind of like an in-game universe thing. But we've always talked about doing further books if this was successful. And I know both Andi and Rhi have a whole bunch more jokes. So, onwards to the future.
Definitely.
Yeah, I had a joke about the way cats are irrationally and dramatically afraid of cucumbers, and I think actually Cal did an illustration, or he did some initial sketches for that.
Yep.
But like cucumbers, you found it that they're like hard to like visualize. When a cucumber put down next to a cat in a video makes more sense than a cucumber static on the page doesn't, like, it can read as multiple things. But that was one I liked that didn't make the cut this time, and I still think it could be like rejigged or whatever, and find a way to work it happen. We
need to dig up that art and post it and post Rhianna's original jokes. It was really funny. Part of that was also that like David had never seen the cats and Supercut on YouTube, so he's like, I don't think he's a cat owner, so he's like, I don't get it.
No, I don't think so.
I'm like sometimes you forget that not everybody is extremely online, and you're like, how can you have not seen this thing? And then I think we all got a little concerned that maybe other people were not all extremely online, but the art was good.
Kat did a lovely image of it. The cat sort of has leapt into the dog's arms and being very dramatically afraid of the cucumber.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that might be one that gets kind of tweaked later on. But
I will say that I'm a little bit of the joker in the family, and I haven't done a cucumber to a cat because I don't have the cats, but I have put the little the little spiky bit on a tomato. I have put that on my son's shoulder, and then pretended it was a spider and gave him a heart attack. So not literally, I don't want a social services contacting me, but that was quite amusing. And he will look and has sworn that he will get me back for that. So, it's fair game. If I scare the kids somehow with a prank, then they are entitled to get me at some point, and I expect it. So I wait with bated breath for my son's revenge.
Maybe you can start like children and cucumbers, like, placing cucumbers. I think, to be honest, if for most people, if there was a cucumber suddenly appeared next to them, you'd be kind of surprised.
Maybe I'll put it next to my son's head as he wakes up, with a little face like Pickle Rick or something, because he loves Pickle Rick, our Rick and Morty. So I'll perhaps do that as a joke next time.
I like that. I think that's a new trend. Cucumbers next to sleeping people.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Put little eyes on them and stare at them. You can cut a little face into it somehow.
You know, if you cut a bell pepper in half and put googly eyes like just in the stem,
yes.
they look like very silly faces. So if you want to, and you don't even have actual googly eyes, I've made them on paper and cut them out and just put them on the wet surface. Never gets old.
Okay, let's do this thing. It is time for the inaugural RP Book Club Festive quiz. I will very vaguely keep score, and we'll see how it goes. So there are 3 rounds to this quiz. The first round is holiday/Christmas themed questions. The second round is a round themed on movie or TV show pets. And the third round is the completely ridiculous but loved every time I've done it. Is it a cheese or is it a UK service station? So let's do round 1. Question 1. When was the term Xmas invented?
Ooh. Oh, there's no multiple choice to this?
No.
Right, okay. Are you looking for it's like
not like a year, but like
a Monday? It was a Monday.
Okay, I'll guess at it's something to do with World War II. I'm going World War One rather. 1915. There you go.
Okay.
I'm blaming the Victorians because you can generally blame everything on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go a little bit later, maybe like 1920s.
Okay. I'm thrilled to say that this question is too hard and you're all wrong. It was actually allegedly, according to my research on the internet, the mid-1500s.
Wow.
By the Greeks, because Christos in Greek starts with an X. Question 2, which I'm hoping...
I suppose when you have to handwrite every book.
Question 2, I'm hoping is maybe easier. Although I like question 1 was interesting at least. Question 2, what country does eggnog originate from?
Hell.
It feels German.
Hell. I do not like it.
I'm going to go round to somewhere like Finland.
It is England.
We invented something.
My answer had land in the end. In the answer, so
I will also be accepting hell. Apparently, it is sometimes called egg flip or holiday sludge. Apparently, it's been developed from medieval British possets.
Oh yeah, I know about possets because of Box of Delights, and the character asks for a posset, and yeah, I was always curious as to what a posset was, and it was much less interesting than it sounded like the name, like falafel, which was a word that I learned from Conquest of Camelot from a video game, and I'd never seen a falafel in my sneeze of a village in Somerset, and so like it sounded so exotic. And when I had a falafel when I came to London, it was a big disappointment until I had a falafel in Dubai, and it was like, yes, this is the falafel of my dreams. This is what I felt like when I played the video game and learned the word falafel. This is what falafels tasted like. Sorry, that was a little bit of little off kilter there.
I mean, they're either like cold meteorites of dense sadness or the best of mankind, depending on who makes them.
Yeah, you need them like hot and fresh, really.
And there's no in between. No. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
This is a movie one. In the movie Elf.
I haven't seen that.
Okay, cool. That's a good start. Buddy sticks to 4 main food groups. Candy canes, candy corns, and what's the final one?
Is it candy floss?
Any more guesses?
I mean, either sugar plums or chocolate, but no one's actually, I don't think Elf would be, I don't think the writers of Elf would be, wouldn't have known a sugar plum if it bit them on the rear.
I don't know. I've never seen it. I have to bow out with this one.
It is syrup.
Oh, cool, syrup. I remember him making it as well.
On the like, he pours it on the spaghetti, which I saw somebody on the internet make and eat, and it looked like a mistake.
Yeah. Though I do love the scene where he gets hit by the car, which my kids absolutely will rewind and play that scene over and over again. And if you haven't seen it, Rhi, I heartily recommend.
It's one I feel like I've seen a lot of memes of, but I don't think I've actually seen the full movie. Maybe this is the Christmas. Try it.
And for our final question of this round, what is the best-selling Christmas song of all time?
It's Mariah Carey. All I Want Is You, isn't it? All I Want for Christmas Is You.
I'm going to go.
I mean, I think Alex is right. But
yeah. But
I think I've heard that.
I'm going to throw something else out just in case. Is it? Do they know it's Christmas time? It
is White Christmas by Bing Crosby.
No, I was going to say that as well.
Oh my God.
So we've not got a single one right.
Oh, well, I'm giving Alex a point for Eggnog in Hell.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm awarding a point for that. Okay. These are movie pet-themed questions, which I'm optimistic may be more successful, but we'll see. I'm going to give you the name of a pet from a movie or TV show. I want you to tell me what movie or TV show the pet is from. And for a bonus point, or the only point if you don't get that right, what kind of animal it is.
Okay, I've got that ready to write down.
So the first one is, and I should say, probably as a spoiler, but we'll say it anyway. This is strictly the on-screen version, not the corresponding comic or graphic novels, if there is one.
Okay. So my knowing the name of the dog and the Thin Man is absolutely not going to help me here.
No, it is not. So your first movie pet is Goose.
Well, I didn't really know that Tom Cruise had that relationship with Goose in Top Gun, but like, it's been a while since I've seen it, you know.
Okay, I'm gonna write this down.
Always thought they were a bit gay. Didn't realize it was that a pet relationship. But
and I know this one because I've just been doing it. I was going to put it in a story. Right. Okay. So, what kind of pet it's from?
What movie it's from, or there's one later from a TV show, and what kind of animal.
And I know that this animal has a different name in the comics.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Wait. Hang on.
I've got no idea. I think.
Okay.
Rhi's got this in the bag.
I've written it down. Like cat. It's a cat. It's from Captain Marvel, and it's a flurkin. I don't know whether it's called a it's a flurkin in the comic.
It is. It's a flurkin that we think is a cat, but is not a cat.
And flurkins have like tentacles and interdimensional. They have an interdimensional pocket where their tentacles live. I've been researching. I was researching this for a story that I didn't end up doing, which is why. And that's how I found out that the Goose is called Chewie in the comics, I think.
Yeah, I can understand why they didn't do that for the movie, but there was
all the
general
points,
outcry.
All the points to Rhi.
That's how many points? Well, that's probably 3 points.
Because when you said that they might not have the same name in the comics, I thought, okay.
Yes. I think that's the only one that's different in the comics, though I might be wrong, but we'll see. The second one is totally different. The second one is called Pascal.
I want to say a rat from Ratatouille, but I'm not 100% sure.
No idea.
It's definitely it's the iguana from Tangled.
That is correct. That is correct.
I feel like it's going to be the Eurovision's.
Yes, Remy.
Yeah.
Like I say, I was going to feel like it's going to be the Eurovision Song Contest all over again, and I'm going to get nil points.
I mean, you know, you might have a stunningly good round in cheese or service station.
You never know. All those years of eating cheese in service stations may come back.
It was bound to pay off sometime.
Exactly.
Your next pet is called Lucky.
Oh yeah, that's the dog in Hawkeye.
That is correct.
It's the same name. It's a one-eyed golden retriever, and yay disabled animals. It's got the same name in the comics. And I have not seen the Disney Plus Hawkeye because I have grown rather exhausted of large franchise entertainment, and in fact canceled my Disney Plus subscription. But I am told it's fine.
It's good. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm, enjoying it as a distraction from the world.
My schedule is so nuts that like I'm currently finally watching Friday Night Lights, a show that went off the air about 8 years ago. And it's taken me 3 months to watch 8 episodes. The ability of other people to like be current on several TV shows at once, I find somewhat like awe-inspiring, because I can barely be halfway informed on ones that ended years ago. I want to start watching Succession. I have not done that. I still have the second season of The Young Pope to watch, and Paolo Sorrentino is one of my favorite directors, and I have somehow not yet found the time to do that. And I wish. It's much like Rhea was saying, the cat had a pocket dimension to keep its tentacles in. I wish I had a pocket dimension to keep their TV watching time in. Just sort of go in there, like have a little bowl of popcorn, a little screen, sofa,
That sounds nice.
No one could find me.
And your final pet from this round is Eddie.
I mean, again, like the relationship between Eddie and Venom. I mean, is Eddie Venom's pet? You could make an argument, just as Goose is Maverick's pet in Top Gun. There's a lot of fan fiction that says, okay.
Oh yeah.
It's where I learned the term consenticles. I'm sorry, I'm in the corner here making it bad. Making it awkward.
Is it some kind of bird?
It is not.
No, that's me out then. I'm I've got no answers.
If nobody knows, I can tell you.
I still claim it's Eddie and Venom. Like that, it makes sense.
It is the dog from Frasier.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so the scores after that round is Andy has indeed 0 points. Rhianna has 3. Yes, because I'm awarding point for both Kat and Flurkin. And Alex is storming in the lead with 5 points.
You should probably take points off for the Top Gun and Venom.
If I was going to do anything, it would be add points, but...
Wait, the trick is that we're not supposed to get all these correct, are we? We're supposed to get everything wrong. That's the name of the game, isn't it?
Like an upside down quiz.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of the teaser service station, there used to be a wonderful quiz on the internet that was something like Hallmark movie or death metal song. And
nice.
Yeah, or romance title or something,
Okay, it is round 3. It is the much anticipated cheese or service station round. I am going to say the name, and you are going to guess if it is a cheese or a service station in the UK. Now, to be clear, by service station, I am talking about on the motorway only, not on any smaller roads. So our first one is Sage Derby.
I'm going cheese.
He says cheese.
I'm going to go service station just to be, to cover all bases.
And you are correct. It is a service station.
Huh.
Your second one is Stitchelton.
I want to say service station, but I'm going to go cheese.
I'm going to say service station and probably be wrong.
I'm going to go service station. I'll be wrong with you.
It's time to celebrate. You have your first point. It is a cheese.
Hey!
End the quiz. No, I still lose.
Your next one is Charnock Richard, which kind of also sounds like an insult.
That sounds like a really, really minor train station.
Yeah, it does sound like a countryside train station.
Where there's 2 trains on Sunday.
I need to go the other way, so I'm going to go cheese.
I'm going to go cheese actually, because maybe it's like a cheese from a tiny village called that.
I'm going to have to go service station then.
It is a services.
Oh.
Which I got wrong the first time somebody said this to me. I was like, that is definitely a cheese. Okay, the next one is Wynendael.
See, it sounds like it's going to be a cheese, but I mean, I wonder whether
it means it's a service. I'm going to say cheese.
I'm going to go with cheese.
I'm going to go service station.
It's a cheese.
Yay.
That's definitely something you can buy at M&S and has like sort of red veining because it's like wine with something else. It comes on one of those little trays from M&S.
It is, I think, interesting to imagine what these would be as cheeses if they were cheeses, the ones that aren't.
Yeah. Well, Sage Derby is pretty easy. It's like pepper. I'd quite like to try that.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Somebody should make it. I did try, oh God, in the depths of the pandemic, I did try to make cheese. And I made what can only be described as upsetting Philadelphia.
Did you get one of those kits? Those cheese kits? Yeah, I've often wondered what you get out of the other end of those kits, but
nothing good.
So describe. Yeah, how upsetting was it? Was it upsetting because to the stomach and the intestines, or was it just upsetting that you just looked at it and just went, "That is just so depressing"?
It was a little depressing that this thing had gone so horribly wrong after a large investment of time. But then it was more the texture than anything. It was like if cream cheese and cottage cheese had a grainy baby.
Yeah, the graininess. No.
I tried adding herbs to it to see if that would help. And if anything, it made it worse. And then we threw it away, put it in the compost before it became live like venom.
Yep.
Your final cheese or service station question. Is this a cheese or is it a service station? It is Gloucester Old Spot.
That's a pig.
That's a pig.
Yeah.
It's also one of those two things.
I'm going to say cheese.
I'm going with cheese as well. Maybe it's like a cheese that comes from the same area that the pig does.
I'm going service station, and this extra point, this is worth 100 points. Am I correct?
You know what? If you get this right, you win the quiz.
If Andy gets this right, I think we should all forfeit and say he's won.
So we've got cheese. Andy, you're going with
service station.
It is a service station.
Oh!
And Andy takes it.
No, it's a hollow victory. I'm not accepting that.
It was your idea.
I bow to Alex.
I need to Google this service station to see if it's got like a pig logo or something. It would make me extremely happy if it was like,
it does. It is actually coincidentally my favorite services in the UK. It's on the M5. I think since I put this together, they changed the name, so now it's just called Gloucester Services. But it used to be called Gloucester Old Spot, and it had like a Gloucester Old Spot pig on the logo, and it's like the world's most unnecessarily fancy services. And that was the RP Book Club festive quiz for this year and possibly ever.
And all years to come, it'll cover it.
I think so. Yes, I hope you will enjoy that. Both the quiz and the rest of this episode. And thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. And if you want to buy the incredible Campaigns and Companions, then we would encourage you to do so. Oh, nice. Sarge there, modeling a copy of the book. You can do that via all the usual book retailers, Waterstones in the UK, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your local independent if you can support them. You can also buy direct from us at Rebellion Publishing. And as I mentioned earlier, right now, if you do so, you can get a set of our creators 4 signed art cards as a free gift because it's the holidays and we're like that. Thank you so much to everybody for being here. It's been a lot of fun and I hope you've enjoyed it.
Brilliant.
It's been great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a blast.
Excellent. Thank you.
And we're out. I hope that lived up to all the promises I made at the start of a completely ridiculous, fun-filled festive special. And thank you again to Andi, Rhi, and Alex for being on the show. It was a complete pleasure to have you. If you want to order a copy of Campaigns and Companions for yourself or as a gift, head to our web store and use code DBC-21-CC for your 20% off listener discount. And as mentioned a couple times in the episode, you'll also get a set of those signed art cards when you order direct from us. I'll be back in January to welcome my first guest of the new year, Sueting Christine Ni, to talk about Synopticon, a celebration of Chinese science fiction. And that is it from me for this year. I hope you have a relaxing and restorative break over the holidays. And for the last time in one of these outros, thank you all so much for listening to and being part of the RP Book Club during our first year in existence. You've really helped make it a success, and I'm looking forward to bringing you more new episodes with more of our brilliant authors in 2022.